Hi guys, and welcome to Angling For You. And you join me, not on the bank this week. As you could probably tell from my voice, when you fall back to work full time, you do pick up the odd cold, and I'm rough, to be fair. I'll be honest, I didn't think I was going to get up to go this morning, but I feel a little bit better than I did definitely yesterday, but maybe it's just that little extra bit of sleep. But let's get in to today's video, and as you've seen from the title, I've done these a couple over the years, and we're going to do another one because I do think it helps people out. There's a stigma around it, and with the energy crisis and food and everything going up, people still want to get out in the bank, and they might not have the ready available money that they've once had, or they may have a little less and want to get more for the money that they have. So that leads me on today's video, and that is how to buy a second-hand pole, and what to look for is the most important thing. So coming back home from work yesterday, from working a week away, early before Sunday, I saw a pole that I was interested in. Messaged the guy, said I'm going to be away for a week, I'll pick it up on the way back. Very, very nice guy. Sometimes what you'll have to do is maybe put a deposit down if you're going to have to wait that long. The guy trusted me, and I sent him a few things of Angling For You to show him so that was a real person, and I was genuine, and I was going to come pick it up, and he saved it for me very thankfully for the week, and I picked that up. So the first thing we're going to go into is around that search. Now, finding out what you need from a pole is really the first part of the search. Sometimes it comes down to physical budget, and that decides what kind of pole you're going to get, but sometimes it can be that you can search for a certain pole variety that you would like to do. Now for me, I've got a brand new pole coming. It's going to be a couple of months, I reckon, before I've scraped up the money together. I'm in a fortunate position where I like to sort of pay for it in one go rather than sort of finance it on, but you know, some people can't do that, so again, that is another option which we'll talk about in a minute. So what I've done is pick one up so I can get a little bit of pole fishing in. I fished with Kelvs last week. Obviously, if you've seen the video of Kelvs new Maver pole, absolutely superb bit of kit. I was fishing on the feeder. Again, there was a video coming with what we caught on that day, but you always feel a little bit lost, don't you, when you've not got your pole. It's not or a rod. I suppose you could do rod, but for me, my pole fishing it is my go-to on an average. So with those things combined, I thought to myself, what do I need? What do I need from a pole? Now, if I had come into that scenario in the summer, I would have thought to myself, well, I only really need probably a margin pole if I were waiting for another pole, because I only need to fish up to probably 10 meters maximum. As in the summer, as you know, we fish sometimes afternoon into later, the fish are in closer, and that's sort of the kind of pole that I'd look for. And I did toy with that because, again, 10 meters is usually enough to do most things, but I started broadening my search, and I searched for a 13 metre pole, and I thought, I didn't personally have a budget, but I didn't really want to spend much more than 400 quid. And that was sort of where I was at. So in that sort of category, you're going to get a lot of different poles, older poles, newer poles that have had breakages and repairs, and I went down the no repairs route. That is, for me, I feel the most comfortable when I'm buying a pole when it's had no repairs. It can be an accident. I've broken pole sections in the past myself, and had them repaired to probably a stronger standard than when they were brand new. But I think it's that mental peace of mind that that person could be a rough handler of the pole, and you don't know that. You're going to see it and you've no idea. So that's my first, I would say, ideal. I've put a budget in place, I've put not a brand, I'll be honest, but a credential in place, which is no breakages. So once I've done that, what I'm starting to look at is, and a 13 metre, sorry, I'm starting to look into those categories. So that's what I'm searching. But where do you start? You know, there is lots of different places you can look. eBay, you could go on there, but my problem is eBay, you can't see them. I mean, you can maybe arrange a visit, so I go with Facebook Marketplace. I think Facebook Marketplace is a great way to start, and that's where I look. There is specific groups. Obviously, we've got Angling for You, Buy and Sell is one of them, but there's many others. So I'll search the local fishing groups that I'm part of. The Yorkshire ones maybe a little bit further, the Rotherham area, but with me doing a role where I drive, I tend to open it up and just allow a wider area, because I might be passing that area. For example, I picked this one up at Lincoln, so you know that's probably an hour and 20 minutes from my home, but it didn't make a difference because I was coming that way when I was coming back. So they're the kind of things that you put in to start, a bit like when you're buying a car and you want leather seats, or you want air conditioning, or you want alloy wheels, for example. So once we put that in place, we start to search, and I searched initially on Facebook Marketplace. That usually is the most up-to-date search engine, and it also uses your location or current location to drag in the more local things. So I started looking around and saw sorry, quite a few different models, and then I landed on one or two, and the one that I'd looked at, it had a variation of a pole nose bung in there. So to me, straight away, I'm thinking pole protection. This person obviously looks and cares after what the pole that they've got. So that's a good number plus to me. It got a bag. Everything was in tubes. So again, to me, you're looking after it. Additionally, they'd bought another 14.5 metre section that was from the model before that one that fit it as well, and we're going to go into all this when we see the pole. So again, that's another positive of it, the package itself. And once I've done that, it's about looking at what comes with it. 4 top kits, they're all puller kits. Of 9 times out of 10 you're gonna change the elastic yourself, so that's not a problem. And it's got a cupping kit with cups. So for me, that's a great package. So then you're looking at price. And price for this was £250, which is a great deal when you see what pole it is. And I thought, you know what, that's bob on. That's sort of in the middle, smack in middle almost of the budget that I want to spend. And I think it's it's overly fair price for what pole it is. So then once I've done that, it's time for me personally, if I don't know the pole or I've never fished with a pole, is to start doing what you guys are doing right now, and that's looking on either YouTube or Google or Maggot Drowning or some form of forum to find information. I like Pole Compares, pretty good, and it shows you the weight, the sections, some feedback, some reviews. Have a little look around online, and it starts to build a picture. And the joy of Facebook Marketplace 99% of the time is you're going to physically go there to buy the item. This is my absolute pinnacle of what's important. If you physically can go and see it, pick it up, put it together, do it. You will know by holding the sections, by looking at the pole itself straight away, how it's been looked after. Now this pole, I've got to say, at the latest it's going to be 4 years old, I would have said. At the earliest 6 years old, and it's in phenomenal condition. Even some of the sections don't even look like they've been used as top kits, but it's in phenomenal condition. So really £250 was absolutely on the money. Give the guy the cash, had a little chat, off we went. Perfect. It's set up on the rollers right now, so we'll obviously look at that. I've got a spider trying to attach itself to me, and we'll have a look at that in a second. So the pole itself, in fact, what I'll do is I'll grab the very end butt section. So like I said, 13 meters with the dolly butt, and I got that additional 14.5 meters to take it to that 4.5 meter sort of length, and it's just an added bonus, I suppose. I can imagine 150 to, yeah, around that kind of price. Probably if you were to try and search around 100 to 150, you would have to pay to get that additional section. Right, here's the drum roll. Place your bets now. We'll have a 3-second pause and see if you can place your bets as to what you think it is. 1, 2, 3, and this is what we've got. We have a MAP 201 3G. Now, what a deal. I can't remember how much these are new, but I would have thought they're around 800 to 900 quid new, maybe 800 I would have said quid like 6 years ago. So 250 quid for what it is a superb deal. And this is a reversible as well, so that goes in the end of that 30 metre section, but also we'll go into the 11.5 metre section as well, which is perfect. So I'm just going to bend down and grab the additional section. So additionally, before that, you avid pole fishermen will remember that before the 2G series, there was the TKS series of poles, and that is what is the 14.5 metre section is. It's off a 401, and it does slot absolutely Bobby Dazzler into the back. And if anybody's picked up a TKS series, they will know they are built like a tank. So obviously that is a really positive thing as well when you are looking at a pole. So what we'll do is we'll move it out, we'll start having a look at the pole, we'll talk about the bits of kit, and we'll talk about the things that I checked when we were buying the pole itself to make sure that everything was spot on. Moving around the pole, you can see it laid across the rollers. I'll be honest, I couldn't put the pole together as one to make sure that, you know, it all picked up together. That's quite rare. When I sell a pole, personally, I always have my rollers and I move the cars, and I give people opportunity to do that if they want to lay that down, to stick them together and to do it. That's not something that I demand off anybody else, because I'm going to really only need to see the sections, the tops and the bottoms, which we'll talk about in a second. So the first thing that I noticed is firstly, you pass me every top kit one by one, and it is important, even if you've got 10 top kits, is to look at them, because they will factor that pricing, and most top kits range between £40 upwards to, well, £130 if you're on a flagship model, and that's your budget. But these are only the competition ones. Now, if I remember rightly, I think they go to competition 4, which is what your 901 in this range would have had, and it just gets lighter and better carbon. For me personally, these are a bit long, and if I do see any one-piece kits, which are probably as rare as hen's teeth at the moment, I'll be honest, I probably would pick them up. They're about 40 quid, and I did have some when I did have my 401 2G years and years ago. But first thing that I noticed is, and I've taken it off, is he had a little bit of elastic, which I do, to hold the sections together. Now, it wasn't, they're all in individual tubes, but I noticed also when I took it out, it had one of these. Now, if you know what these are called, then this is not, you know, it don't matter, that's great. But if you don't, they're called a Dobry. Now, what Dobries do is exactly what I've just done in reverse. Is your section has collapsed, you push, it's got a little bridge across, you push it into your elastic, one half goes down one, bit fiddly when you're trying to do it on camera, and the other goes down the other, so it ends up like that. And the ideal is to stop the rubbing on the ends of your sections when it's folded, so it doesn't cut into your elastic. Now, if you were to go to Pono's Bungs and tell him what top kit you have got, he will do you the section aligners, so that will stop that completely, and it's like sits inside and it has a little hole in the center and the elastic won't rub. So that is a great option, and they're relatively inexpensive. You get them in any color you want, so you know, you can be tarty if you like. Now, so that's straight away to me. Like I said to you, he's got a decent bag, he's got tubes for everything, all the sections. He's obviously washed it, which is showing that he cares about the appearance of what the pole is, and he also wants to show any imperfections out on the pole because he's washed it so you can see them. So don't always think just because they've washed it they're trying to hide something. It's 99% of the time it's if someone's washed it, it's showing you the imperfections. If I turned up and the pole was really muddy, I would ask for a cloth so I could wipe it down, and don't be afraid of doing that, because effectively that can hide cracks or anything. Once you've driven away, especially if it's further away, the likelihood is you're not going to go back, and that's how it is. So like I said, 4 of these kits, they're fine. I had the 101 2G as well, and then I had the 401 2G at one point, and the 101 was great. So to me, I knew the 101 was great, and getting a 201 was only going to be better than the 101, slightly lighter, slightly stiffer. I knew it's no flagship pole, I know it's no best of the range, but I knew it's strong. I'd land a big fish on the 101. This would be a similar kind of story, and I'd obviously got the 13 meters at a minimum. Obviously got that bonus 14.5 meters, and I'll be honest, I've stood up with up to 14.5 meters on, and I've stood up with it, which is not the right way to hold a pole for balance, because obviously you can sit into it and hold it under your forearm, and it picked it up really easy, and I'm actually surprised. So I'm actually interested to get it on the box, which we'll see the balance wise, and it felt great, and I was surprised actually, and it matched quite a few newer poles. In fact, it was as good as the X10 that I've just had, the Superium, as good as that, and that was a 750 quid pole. So, although that was this when it was new, of course. So I'm happy is the thing. The top kit's a little long for me, but it's 250 quid for a package, so you can't go wrong, can't you? So the top kits are, as you can see, quite long. They're almost like the old SR Daiwa pole kind of length, but they've got the nice side pullers. It's reinforced. They feel strong. They've got a good ball size on the end, so you can put bigger elastics in. It does say up to 20 solid, so you can put some whackers in there. Not that I'll be doing that, of course. So I'm happy. So that's the first stage one. We've done that, and we've looked at the top kits. So put those top kits down. We've looked at the cupping kit as well. Does it screw on? Yes, it does. Are the cups all right? Yes, they are. Does it push together? That's pretty much all you need to look at with that. Worst case scenario, if the screw fell off or the cup, you could just buy a new one for relatively cheap money, a tenner, as a full package, and can choose your own. So I'm just going to nip off the end section, because this one hasn't got a bung on. That's a reversible section as well, the one that we showed you up against camera, which means it'll go in the 11 meter section, which is this one, and it'll also go in your 13 meter. So what are we looking for? What are we looking for when we get the sections? We are looking at, firstly, the wear that is on the push-in. Now, the further you get this way towards the end sections, relatively, the less the wear will be, and that's because your 3 and your 4 and your 5 are the most worn sections. So you need to make sure when you put them together, that when we'll go down there to do that, is that you push them together and they're tight enough and they're not floppy, which we'll talk about when we get to the other end of the pole. So firstly, what drew me to this is it's got a pole protector, so it's protecting the end of the pole. Now I'm looking down the edge for any cracks or any drastic sort of damage where the protector's gone onto, and I looked on every section. There's a couple of tiny little chips, which I would expect from a 6-year-old pole, but no hairline cracks or anything like that. And they probably happened either, it's probably turned 2 hands, maybe 3 hands of people, this pole, before it's come to me with its age. Most people keep a pole 2 years nowadays, unless you're investing long term. So that's normal, and I can have a look round and see there's nothing there. There's certain flexible epoxies that I've had in the past when I've had chips on these ends, and I just gently put a little bit of this epoxy on, let it set and wet and dry it down so it's smooth, and you know, it's like new. So if you do have sort of like a little slightly bigger chip but there's no cracks, then you could do that. But in every section, hardly they've got odd little chips where it's maybe dropped down on the gravel, but with having the Pro Protector in there has obviously give it a safer and stronger finish now. So I'm having a little work around of it as well, seeing if it's loose or if it's stiff into the pole. I had a little look inside to see if it was glued. It's not been glued. Sometimes I don't like it when the sections are glued. The reason being is when it's in summer it'll expand, when it's in winter it can contract, which could create cracks. So I don't do that. The next is to go inside the other section at the end and just run your finger, put your finger flat in it, spin it with your thumb and against there, and that'll show you if there's any chipping inside or any wear from anything inside. And then a little gentle squeeze as you pass a section through your hand, top and bottom, will tell you if there's any soft points in it where somebody's maybe struck while it's been on their arm and have put an elbow in it. That's usually going to be in this kind of section or sort of 5 backwards, I would say. Usually the worst ones for it are 6s, 5s, I wouldn't have said 4s, but 6s and 5s, because you're fishing short fishing and you hit the shorter bites. And with poles like this, they come with a nice reversible, but they're not a flagship pole, so they don't come sometimes with as many dollies that some of the other poles would come for that exact reason. So that is another thing you really do need to have a little look at. I'm not saying hammer them, but with this 3G series, I feel it's a little bit stronger as a poles generally than the 3G was. They were lighter and stiffer, the 3G, but I think a softer compound, and they didn't feel as strong, but not as weak as sort of the MTX range. The MTX 3 especially and 4 were, you know, very, very soft, I felt, around the 5s, and I've got some of my mates that have replaced sort of 7 sections on those. So that's where we've gone with that. Now what we'll do is we'll move to the closer sections, and we'll look about that wear and what I was explaining about, and maybe your 3s, your 4s and your 5s. Right, everybody, we are at the other end of the pole, and we're going to have a little look at the 3s and the 4s and the 5s mainly, and effectively what we're looking for. Like I said to you before, these are the most common sections to break, and we've got, just gently lay that down there, we've got 3 rollers to make it super safe. I'm just going to ship that onto there very well. And as you can see, this is the most unshipped. Now, this is the section that gets taken apart the most. That's the best way of putting it. That was a long way around. But as you can see, going from this section compared to the end section, it's a lighter colour. Now, you can have a pole for 3 sessions and it'll look lighter on these sections because you are shoving them on and off. If you're playing on an average day in a summer session, you could unship that 200 plus times, and that's not necessarily fish, it's just coming back and changing your bait, putting another top kit on, you know, it gets a lot of hammer, you know where I'm going. So thousands and thousands of times, especially if it's 6 years old, and this is relatively good. Now you can see where it goes up to here is where the section goes, and that's a little darker, and when you go onto it, it is a different texture. Now a lot of these of the lower range won't have a Teflon coating, some of the higher ranges might, but what I'm looking again for is hairline cracks and chips. Now this one's had a couple of chips, but very, very small, no hairline cracks. You run your nail over it, if there's any hairline cracks it'll pick that up. This is exactly what I'd expect from even a 2 or 3 year old pole that had not had any bungs in. Now this has got a bung in it, but like I said before, this definitely did not have bungs in from the first owner. Whether they didn't know about it, I don't know. These are not Stewart's at Pole Nose Bungs, but I do recommend to get Pole Nose Bungs because they are not hollow like this. Sorry, the 3 is because if you have a puller bung, it needs to go inside, but from everywhere else they aren't, so which means if you drop them in, they'll be buoyant for a certain amount of time and allow you to pick them up. So very, very important. Again, for a 3 section, and again, this is what I'm trying to say, if you like, you can tell a lot about a pole when you pick up the number 3. The 3 for me is you'll either say one or two things. You'll either say, oh God, that's brand new, because someone's broke it, and if it's brand new, it don't make a difference. Like, you're looking at the quality of that exact thing. So if they've had to replace it because they've snapped another one or it's been broken, then, and it looks new, then that's doesn't matter if that's happened. It means you got a new section. But you can tell a lot about the pole and the person that uses the pole with a number 3. The wear is minimal on there, which means it's not been taken out under load, under a difficult angle. It's come out smooth. They've got a protection on there, and shipping down to there is like a new pole. So they have not been hammering that onto the floor. That's been on a rest or a short pole roller behind them, or they've been shipping back from 3 and 4, so that's why obviously we're going to go check those. Now, with it having a pole nose bung or a style of protector on, it allows me to gently lay it on the floor, that side down, and that is one of the reasons why bungs are so important to have on. Now, moving to the number 4 section, I'm just going to give myself a little bit more room on that. Moving to that, it is probably even better than the 3. It's shipping back, there's one minuscule little chip there, and as you can see, it's nowhere near as white as the 3 section was. We'll get the 3 as a comparative. You can see them side by side there. The 3 is definitely slightly more worn because obviously it's a 3 section and it gets unshipped the most out of any. But this one, again, 4s and 5s are one you should always look by. Just really minimal wear. You can feel it with your thumb. It's all consistent. It's not in any sort of drama. It's not being glued. You can pull your finger in there and move it around. Everything looks in good condition. No cracks, which is absolutely perfect. And it takes a little bit of time, and sometimes you might feel that a little uncomfortable because you feel like you're sort of judging somebody. But if you're paying your money and it doesn't matter what price bracket you're at, you know, you're putting your money there, and that's your money, and you should get what's right for your money. So we're on to the 5. 5 probably takes the most hammer of all the short sections. A lot of people fish from a 5 section onwards. Top kit plus 3 is a common distance to fish for paste, for short pellet, for short margins. So a 5 not only is a section that gets unshipped quite a lot, it's also a section that takes a bit of a pasting. So this is one where the squeeze test is really important. I mean, be gentle because you ain't bought it yet. You don't want to be cracking it, but you will be able to feel any flat spots on it. So this one has probably got the most damage, I would have said, out of any section that I've got, and this has got a little ding sort of there. Now this, for me, it's not a big problem because it's not a hairline crack that goes all the way down. This is something that I might put a little tiny bit of epoxy on, or a little type of a flexible glue, and just gently sand that down so it sits flush. That's probably something I would do, but I've turned it all the way around, and I did notice this, and I did mention this when I picked it up, but it didn't affect the price or affect what it was, because, you know, like I said, I wasn't too worried about it, and that's looking at it is just somebody has dropped that down on something gravel wise. That's what definitely is. Before the person that's put the bungs in it has bought it, that's what it is. And it's going to be a 6-year-old pole, so there's going to be something like that, so I'm not too worried about that. And like I said, a flexible epoxy that you can just put on there and sand, you know, six quid or so, you're absolutely fine. If you've got a crack that comes down to here, you've got a different problem, and that's where you start to negotiate and take it to somewhere like Mark Wainwright to get fixed. But from the wear point of view, a little bit more than the 4, but a little bit less than the 3, which I would imagine, like I said, from that section, I gently go down the section with a little squeeze, rotating the pole in with my left hand, and that will definitely show you if there's any flat spots, soft spots, sorry. You'll able to see it in the colour, usually in the carbon, if there's been somewhere where it's dinted. Really important. As I say, this one's taken some hammer, but on the end, on the other side, absolutely Bobby dazzler. So they're the main sections and how I would check them for wear. I will still go when I'm there through every section of the pole, of course, because you are buying the whole pole and any section can get broken, and I would do that. You can even see with the colouring on the section aligners that it's been looked after. So we're going to put that back on the roller, because we're going to nip right back down to the other side, and we're going to give it a lift for you so you can have a little look at it sort of at its full length. We're not going to go down the whole of every single length and start messing about as in like a full pole review. We could do that on a bank if in the comments you say that's something you want to see, but we're just going to give you a guide of, if you are allowed to pick it up, what you should maybe look for when you're fishing, giving it a feel and a waggle. Right guys, we're going to get to lifting it up and a little bit of advice around what we're doing and what we're looking for in this scenario. Now, what I'll say is, if this is not your kind of video and you want to go to a shop and you don't want to buy second hand, then these little bits of tips of what to look for in this stage are definitely relevant. But like I said, this is to help everybody that's going through this terrible credit crisis with the cost of living, that still want to get on the bank and still want certain products to help the fishing, but they can only put smaller amounts of money together. Can show you 250 quid. This is a banging pole for 250 quid. I'd pay 500 quid. You know, if I picked it up and there were no names on it and it were blank, and they asked me how old it was, 2 to 3 years old tops, and that's where the deals can be had. And I know that when I sell this, I will get my 250 quid back when I get my new pole, and that's what it's about. So, and even if I don't, and even if I lose 50 quid, still 200 quid to go into some elastics and bits and bobs for your new pole. So I am going to stick the reversible in. Now, the guy I bought it off does a lot of canal fishing, so that's another thing. I do think someone else has owned it before that, but we've been doing canal fishing. To me, the likelihood of the bigger fish and the hammer will be quite small, because obviously he's fishing for majority small fish. You will catch the odd tension and decent sized bream or skimmer, but majority of time, and you can tell that from the elastics that are in there, you won't. So this has obviously had some hammer. Fishing his track line, it's still absolutely, you know, perfect, and these are built like brick crap houses, and this is the one where it's got a little bit of markage on, because I would have thought if you're fishing a canal, 9 times out of 10 you're in a bush, and that's probably why he uses it a lot on his 11.5 metre section. Either he's fishing a short canal, or if he fishes it his longer length, he would have it in as a protector for all those bushes and stuff behind. It's cheaper to replace this than it is a normal section, and he's probably picked up 14.5 metre section up for those slightly longer canals where he can fish it, which proves to me, when he told me he was a canal fisherman, that it must be all right at length, because you've got to be able to hold it. So if you are buying a brand new pole, then if you can, go to your local vendor, sit down, hold it, experience it, check the different balance points, because that's really important, and it's really important to get the right pole that suits you for balance. Might not be the pole you think it is. I came out with a Browning once, a Z82, which was heavier than the pole I originally went for, but felt better with the balance. That's important if you're buying a brand new pole, and that's what I mean about that bit of advice. But in this situation, I haven't got a seat. Ideally, if the person's setting it up, and if I was setting it up for people to come and test, I would get my seat box out so they could sit on it. But worst case scenario, you've got some rollers out. Even worse than that, they'll let you put it together outside, and you can hold it in sections. You know, maybe get 6 meters out and have a little waggle, put that down, gently take it back together, and put the lower end of sections up and pick those up, just so you know that when they're put together, that, you know, everything's cool. Didn't have that opportunity last night. It was pitch black. It's not the guy's fault. There was no point. I wouldn't have seen anything, wouldn't have felt anything. There wasn't the space to do it. But I've got it out first thing this morning. We've got it out in front of us. It's laid out across 3 rollers of support, so I'll put it together. It's not going to hit anything, it's not going to chip anything. We've not got water in front of us, obviously, so with us doing it at home, so you've got to make sure it's safe. What we're going to do firstly is pick it up and have a feel of the length and what it feels like to hold. Now, all I'll say is if it feels good or okay in your hands, it's going to feel better when you sat down on a box. I will say that, because you've obviously got your counterweight, you're comfy, it's going to be lighter, just as if you hold it out in front of you, it's going to be heavier. So let's pick it up, make sure you've got the butt section on if you've got it, to get your arm under it. Look, and that's 13 metres, perfectly light enough to fish at 13 metres. There's a little tiny sag, there's a little bit of bounce. I would expect it, being a pole of this age and of this price bracket when new, really for the money, it's absolutely bob on. The longer top kits will affect obviously the weight and the bounce as well. Like I said, if I can grab hold of some, I'll get some short kits which would change up. So this leads me on to my next thing. If you've got a variety of different top kits, and if you watch me do Kelv's pole review last week, and any pole review that I do which got multiple top kits, I always show what they do to the effect of the pole, or if you've got a short 4. So if you've got those, stick them in and have a go and have a waggle, because they will change. If you've got a short 4 or you've got a short top kit, they will definitely change the appearance and the feel of the pole. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly grab on the 14.5 metre section, stick that bad boy in, and as an added extra, we'll have a look at what that's like. Right, so we have the 14.5 metre section on, but you keen people that know the lengths of poles will be saying it's not 14.5 metres because you've taken off the extension, and that will make it 14 metres and it won't be the same length. Well, funnily enough, it's a parallel. So that butt section goes in absolutely perfect, which means you could get a 401 16 metre section and take it to 16 metres if you wanted to. So these are the things you've got to think about. Matthew, my friend Matt Jackson, he has a XI20 midi pole and one of my spare 16 metres that I had for the XZ65 fit bang into that, so he has a 16 metre pole instead of 14.5 metre pole now as well. So Kelv, if you're local and you're on the Facebook groups or whatever, you want advice about what parallels, what sections going to hit Kel Stew up, he will tell you absolutely everything. He knows probably the most about poles I've ever talked to him in entire life, consistently around the plethora of poles rather than just a certain brand, and he will tell you exactly if something will go into it, or he'll tell you the person that'll let you know. So this is 14.5 metres. It may be varied slightly less than that, I don't know with map without measuring it, but that's not the purpose of today. But it just allows you to pick it up. I mean, I can hold that fairly reasonably stood up. I'm not going to do it for a long amount of time because I'm obviously not massively out of my operation, but it's perfectly easy to hold at that length stood up. So sat down, fine. Is it heavy? A little bit heavy. Is it saggy? Yes, it will be a little bit. It's not really made to be that length in this certain way, but it fishes fine. You were able to do it, that's why the guy's got it. It's an added extra, and if you didn't want it, you could sell that separately to the actual pole itself and just keep your pole and sell that extra section to somebody else if you don't want it. So a lot of information, a lot of chaos of plethora of stuff going on. I would always recommend that you change your elastics when you buy a new pole, regardless of if that person, like I always do, says it's 2 months old or a month old or whatever. I would definitely change it. It's just peace of mind. You don't want to get your PB fish on, and it's very possible when we fish these commercials to get your PB fish on and it twangs off on an elastic that's not been tied by yourself or someone at the shop that you trust. That'd be a killer. You don't want to do that to yourself. So what I'd recommend is to definitely change them. One of these has got a storm throw connector on, something I never use. I'm either using crow's foots now or a bead. I don't even use Dacrons that much, to be honest, but it's what you feel comfortable with, and that's again what I'm going to be doing is changing these elastics at some point, especially when one of them's like a number 2 or something crazy, because there's obviously a lot of canal fishing. But hopefully this has been helpful to you. I wanted to think of a video that I could do to give back, and I wasn't thinking about buying a pole until my new one came, but you know what, we're all fishermen, and we like to tart about on the internet looking at what's there. And when I thought, you know, there might be a couple of months before I get it, I'm probably going to want a pole fish before then. I thought about a margin pole. I settled on this when I saw it for a price. I thought you could buy a good margin pole for a couple of £100, so for a little bit more, what a deal. So a big thanks. I'm not going to mention his name because, you know, I haven't asked his permission, but a big thanks to the guy that sold me it. It's in a safe, good home. It'll go to another safe, good owner after myself, and it'll be looked after, and I'll make sure there's fresh elastics in for the next person. But hopefully it gives you a little of idea of what to look for when you're going for a pole. It's not a common thing to buy. Like I said, there's a lot of people that can't afford to swap and change and buy once for quite a while. I want you to do that with confidence and feel like you've checked everything, and if something happens that's just completely out of the blue, then that's just bad luck, but you've covered your angles with having a look. So that's all I can say on that, and hopefully it'll put some good poles in people's hands, and help other people that are maybe selling it for circumstances to help theirself with money as well, because they can't afford to keep it. Also, that might help other people out down the long run as well. So a massive thank you for all the support that you've been doing. The YouTube and Facebook are going strong. Even though we had a blip last year, the Facebook has just exploded since the blip. It seemed to go better, so it's fantastic, and that everybody that supports it is superb. And there will be many giveaways this year, and they will be coming throughout the year, and we'll drop those in. We've got loads of amazing stuff planned, some crazy adventures around the country, but I'm not going into any more detail than that. Some good celebrity anglers as well around the year, and a lot more product reviews to come. So a big thank you to Fishing Tackle and Bait as always for supporting us, and Stuart Jolly at Pono Bungs, and Paul Leclerc at Midwater Luggage. It's been superb, and of course Midi Tackle as always. David supporting the journey and allowing us to have products that we wouldn't be able to afford to just continuously buy, that we can give to you guys once tested. So from me, thank you very much. If you can join us on the Facebook group, that'd be superb. If you could join us on the Instagram if you just want to see pictures, at angling_for_you, and if you can like, share, subscribe, and join this growing Angling for You family. Until the next one, guys, thank you very much for watching. Tight lines.